conspirator Ginger Edwards. And this is the place where we explore that edge zone, that riparian area between the ocean of possibilities and what is.
I love that. That
Yeah.
ocean of possibilities. That's nice. Hi, Iris. It seems like I haven't talked to you in
Oh,
forever.
it does feel like a long time.
Yeah, happy full
I
moon.
Oh my gosh, it was so enormous this morning, like right over the
Mm,
bridge as I
mm.
was leaving the house. It was just huge. And I'm like, oh gosh, I should take a picture of it. And then I'm like, oh, I'll wait until I get up closer, like over, in a better position than just in front of my house. But I took a picture, but then like by the time I got in my car and got my car turned around, it was already covered in clouds.
Oh, wow. I was gonna
And so
say I didn't see it this morning.
I was so happy. I just stopped and was like looked at it for a little while. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
late, so I was like I just kind of blissed out on the moon for a minute, and
Nice.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll drive up there where I can see it really good and just like hang out. But
Good. Good. That's a good way to good reminder to always take the present moment because you never are guaranteed
right, it
that
was like
clouds will not roll
yeah,
in a future moment.
like minutes, like 2 minutes. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
I heard thunder and lightning this morning. It's
Oh
strange.
wow.
So Aries energy, it's a big full moon, very unpredictable. So I'm just gonna ask, and with all of this energy in the air, what are you nurturing right now, Iris?
So what I'm nurturing is this idea of having like an owner's manual for myself of myself.
Nice.
Because I don't know if it was going on the last time we talked, but I got this back thing, this back and hip thing happened, and I haven't had that really. Like I haven't had like a episode. I think we had some correspondence via text, but it's been a thing. Like
Mm,
I'm going to go see people and having body work and doing little exercises to like help, everything chill out and icing and all that stuff. And it got me really thinking because I always feel like anytime you have a health thing, this is
mhm,
my belief. My belief is that it is always multifaceted.
mhm,
So while it is true that I lifted a bunch of water, probably not in great ways over that week that I initially feel like I'm like, oh, ooh, ow, right? I
mhm.
think it had to do with a lot of other things too, primarily putting too much pressure on myself because I have all these big things happening. And then, sorry, is this cool?
Yeah, yeah, it's so cool.
So and then it was feeling a lot better. Had a treatment. And then for my new job, I had to drive down to Tillamook, which, as those who know me know, I was very late to the driving game and I'm a nervous driver. So it may not sound like a big deal for other people. Like I didn't have to go on the freeway or anything. I would have to have Joe take off from work. I can't do the freeway. But
Mhm.
I drove myself to Tillamook and back, which is kind of a big deal for me. But it also was like, 4 hours of driving,
Yeah,
which is not great when you've got a back situation
yeah.
going on. But the thing that about that drive that really I'm so grateful for was that I was observing that my little Honda Fit has a speedometer that goes in 20-mile-an-hour increments, and it goes up to 140 miles an hour. And I was just like driving and I was thinking, how utterly absurd.
Yeah.
like there in what universe does the Honda Fit go 140 miles an hour? Like
Uh,
no universe that I know of. And then I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, why is it that it goes in 20-mile-an-hour increments? Because it's like here on the coast, I'm like, I go all the way up to Ocean Park every week and
mhm.
I go down to, and I'm like, there is no place that I know of on any of the roads that I travel regularly, like there's barely any 55s. There's some
Right.
50-mile-an-hour places, but most places are like 45, 35, go 25, then you can go like
Mm-hmm.
it's like they're like 10-mile stretches where you can go 55, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, one, there's no place straight enough in Clatsop County to go 140 miles an hour, even if there was nothing else, like if you're trying to do a time trial or something. And so, but which brings me back to myself and the expectations I have for myself.
Oh,
And
I
and I
see.
and I realized
Ah.
my speedometer that I'm
Mm.
measuring how fast I should be going in my life is not calibrated to
Oh, that's so
reality.
good, right?
So I've been thinking about it a lot. And then it's
So wait,
like,
no. I want to know what is your speedometer like? What do
well,
you
so
think your top speed is?
so I think that I'm often believing that I should be going like 110
Yeah.
when in reality, if I really like look at it rationally,
Mm-hmm.
probably it's pretty curvy because life has got a lot of stuff going on.
There's that.
Probably I should be going like 40 or 45, which means
Oh,
I somehow think I should be going, 100 miles faster than I have the capacity for. It's
yeah.
just, so I'm like, all right, I need to recalibrate how much I think I should get done. Again, I never stop talking about this because I somehow
We're
cannot get
back
the
we're
three.
back to hand pies.
We're back to hand pies over again. And so, but I also, because of my back, the gift of it is that I realized, oh, there is no chance in hell that
Mhm.
I will do what I thought in January I could somehow pull off for this show in November.
Mm,
There's just no way. And
right.
parse also in January, I hadn't applied for this job,
That's right. Yeah.
so I didn't know. And there was like so much happened over the summer that I had not known about in January. So like it's really, and I'm like, and then this is the last piece, and then I want to hear your thoughts on this because I know you've dealt with body saying no to you and making you like
Oh
get
yeah.
smart, is um realizing that I do not want to modulate my speed after I've gone headfirst into a tree, right? By like having my body say, you're done. You have to spend 4 days
Yeah.
alternating between like walking around your room a little bit until it's too painful and you have to like lay down
Mm,
flat on the floor for a while, or and then that doesn't work very good because it's hard to get back up. So like, spending 3 days
mm,
icing and heating and like taking ibuprofen, which I
mhm.
despise. And like, you know, it's like, I don't want to have my gauge for when I need to slow down and reassess be that I have been incapacitated.
Yeah, this is good. And it's so funny that I actually just looked at this. I write sticky notes to myself, like when I have thoughts that I'm like, these are really powerful thoughts that I should practice, right? So I write them on sticky notes and I stick them on my calendar. I put them places where I'll see them. And I was
Love
just
it.
looking at my calendar today, and one of the sticky, I kid you not making this up. One of the sticky notes says, your emotions are like dashboard lights, and
Nice.
paying attention to them is like the way you service, like you keep everything in good service, like, and it doesn't make any sense to ignore the dash lights blinking, and that's what your emotions are. So I am relating to what you just said, the car metaphor, that not only physically do we have like limits,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Our vehicles have limits, but that we have these signals that do go off, and we are not, for some weird reason, like not skilled or never taught that they relate to the physical structure that our souls are driving around. When
Somehow, totally.
clearly I think they were designed to be dashboard lights, signaling that there's a deeper problem in the engine, and that if we just keep ignoring it, something's gonna go off. Like something's gonna blow up or fall off or break and slow us down. And so it's amazing to me that we're both in our 50s and we're still baffled when our backs go out or like, and we're just like, what? And of course,
Well,
always in retrospect, we can be like, oh yeah, we were pushing way too hard, or like I was.
oh, totally.
And so my question to you is, what was the dashboard light that you ignored?
Okay, totally. So even before I harvested all of my indigo in 3 locations on the same 2 days.
Okay, that's one.
So before that, we hadn't weeded in a while over at the farm. And so we went and spent like a whole half a day weeding, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, 150 row feet of
Mm-hmm.
like pulling, so like that, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, we can't harvest today because my body's saying I have to stop. So then I went back in 3 days after I
Mm-hmm.
recovered enough to harvest. And then anyway, so even prior to that, my stress level was really high.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like having those little hyperventilation moments.
Okay, so there's a
That so
dashboard
like
light.
like totally.
Yeah.
And Joe's like, oh, you're doing that thing when you like kind of go like blubber your lips. He's like, that's
Oh, that's such a
no,
good board
that's
light. You're
that's a
making a
total.
That's like a car sound too.
It's totally car sound. So like I blubber my lips and I don't even notice. And he's like, you're blubbering. What's going on?
Oh
And
yeah.
so like even like I was like, okay, but I have to deal with this harvest, even though I had all this other stuff to do. And then I did
Like, hold on,
that.
there it is. I'm gonna pause you.
Yeah.
Because right there, do you see the override that you did on your dashboard light? So
No.
your husband calls out, "Hey, you're doing that physical thing that you do when you're really stressed out," and you're like, "Oh, I don't even realize I'm making that noise. My
Yes.
car is making this noise." But somebody else gets in your car and is like, "There's a weird
What?
I hear this
It's a
noise."
knocking.
And you're like, I don't know, whatever. I'm really busy. I hear that all the time. I don't even hear it. And then you're like, and you just said like, but then I just pushed through, or like, I just overrode that
Yes.
and I went in to do the thing anyway. And so
Oh
keep
yeah, and I
going.
did
This
I
is
did it
good.
like totally. And so then I had to teach a class. I had a class coming up. And so, I mean that's this aside from the 625 kids that I do stuff with weekly and monthly, like that. I'm
Yeah.
not that's also this background thing that this
Yeah.
like doing art in four
So you're
schools.
harvesting, you're weeding, you've got your full-time gig with the kids anyway. Now you've taken on
Yes.
a new job and you have a
Right.
big art show coming up in November.
Yes, yes. And so
Okay.
in the middle of that, I had this class at the Maritime Museum.
And in the middle of that, you had an extra thing that you
I had
added.
an extra thing. And
Okay.
so like 2 days before the Maritime Museum, I was like, Joe was at work. Hadn't started full time yet with my new job. So, um, and I was just like trying to get, I was still dealing with all the indigo pigment settling, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like feeling, and suddenly I was like, oh my God. I was like hyperventilating. And I'm like, you know what? I really need to talk to somebody. I need to check in with another human.
A
And
mechanic.
I need another human. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. And I'm
Car's
like, all right, just,
overheating.
but yeah, like my car was totally overheating. And I was like, at first I was like, nobody wants to listen to me complain.
No mechanic wants to look at this car. I'm just gonna keep the analogy going for you. This is
Yeah,
so
no,
good.
it's so
No
good.
mechanic wants me to bring my car to them. Okay, this is great. Keep going.
I almost called you and I'm like, oh no, she doesn't have the bandwidth. She's got
Oh,
this cool thing coming up. And so then I was like, all right, I haven't like, I'm like, all right. And I was like thinking about like who I like, and so then I was like, okay, so I'll bug Kestrel because I think I knew that she had just finished a huge thing, and I was hoping that she was surfing the relief from having finished this huge thing. And so I'm like, do you have the bandwidth to like just do a little check-in? Like, and then, and like just in case, but what I really felt like saying is, I'm freaking out.
yeah. Yeah,
But
car
like,
overheating,
I'm
cars
car is
in.
overheated on the side of the road. And
Mm-hmm.
but luckily she did, and she was like, dude, you can just ask. Anyway, so she totally did some really quality listening. And
Mm.
she's like, okay. And like Kate gave me, because I was like, I needed, like, I was just immobilized. Like I had some emails I had to do for my new job. And I'm like, I can't. I love it. She's like, so she kind of
So I'm
talked
gonna
me
slow you down.
down.
I'm gonna slow you down
Yeah.
because this is really good. Because like you said, cars on the side of the road, like you're immobilized, right?
I
Like
was
you can't.
totally immobilized.
So basically the car has stopped now at this point. Like there's nothing else happening until you reached out for help.
Mm-hmm.
And you reach out for help. So this is how the mechanics of Iris work. So for
Yes.
Iris, what the mechanic needs to do is listen compassionately.
It was very helpful.
Very helpful. And that's all. That's all that needed to happen is you needed someone to listen.
And that was like super good. And it totally de-escalated my like runaway panic that I was feeling. It
Okay.
wasn't enough to get me to write the 2 emails I needed to write,
But it
but
got you back on the road.
it got me back on the road. And so I'm like, I'll just deal with that. I'm going to see them tomorrow. So I physically saw, and so I did anyway. So had the work meeting, and then that was Thursday. Thursday was getting me back on the road. Friday was the work meeting, and then Saturday I had the class at the Maritime Museum, which is a little high stakes. That's a little high stake as a venue for a couple of reasons, but. And I get there, I get all set up. It's a gorgeous space and everything's cool. And then about 15 minutes into the class, suddenly my back hurts so bad. I realize I literally, like, I'm like, if I drop something, like I had put stuff under the tables to have easy access to it. I
Mm-hmm.
had to have a student come up and get it and put it on top of the table because I literally could not bend down. Like, and I was just like, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, this is pretty intense. And I say it
Yeah.
out loud. I'm like, I'm having a thing going on with my back right now. And Sue Skinner was in the class, and she's retired medical
Mm-hmm.
professional. So she comes up to me like after the class. She's like, I you don't really usually complain. What's going on? And she's like, all right. And she's like, follow me back to my house. So like Joe shows up, we pack up and we go back to her house, and she gives me this ice pack thing, and she's like, here's what you have to do. And like she gave me like the riot rack of of like how to deal with the crisis
Yeah.
of the back pain, hip pain thing.
Yeah.
And like Joe literally, like I could barely get in the car. Like Joe had to lift my left leg into the car for me because I
Okay.
couldn't lift it up because it was
Mm.
so like crazy. I've never had anything like this. I feel so much empathy for people that deal with chronic pain. Holy shit.
Yeah. And
Anyway, so
I want to pause you again because this is
yeah.
really good for people. One of the things that we're doing is going back, like we're rolling it
Hmm.
back. And this is like a whole great technique where you like, okay, I'm injured. And then you just start to do this journey backwards. Like, and you were going back before back before you felt pain, back into like, and then we're getting into the noises that you heard, like we're making and like, the exasperated
Oh
little
yeah.
hyperventilation you had. And like, and you realize like you got the car back on the road, but you
I
didn't
hadn't
get any
addressed
repair
this.
done. Yeah, you hadn't
Right.
addressed it or
No,
like
no.
addressed it. You just kept going. You're like, this is
I
good
was
enough to
still
get back on.
I had an oil
Yeah.
leak in the oil or
Yeah,
something.
it still wasn't like safe to drive. You were just like, I'm gonna make it to this nest. I have to get to this thing, this destination, right? So I'm gonna push it. And you pushed it, and then the car broke down. Of
Yeah.
course, the analogy here is the body. The body was like, okay, now I'm gonna take care of it because I've been telling you that
For
this is too
like
much for
3 weeks.
3 weeks. 3 weeks. The dash lights have been going off. They were getting louder, and then you and
Probably
so
longer than that,
and so
honestly.
my question is, why do we do this? Like, why do we
Yes.
ignore the dash lights when they're so clearly going off?
Well, here's what my thought was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So the 140 mile an hour realization was like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, was like a couple weeks ago now. And I was thinking, this is where I was thinking about the like having like an owner's manual for your body and your psyche,
Exactly.
just like
Yeah.
human
Yeah.
for yourself as a human. And I was thinking about like, because it's partly, it's like when you work with children, it's like reminding you of like your own essential humanness. Like it's really a good it's like you kind of, it's like, like it's really showing, it's really, it's kind of astounding. And they're so transparent, you know, so like it's really a gift to hang out with such honest, I mean, they're not always honest, sometimes they're lying, but
No,
you
but
know what I
what
mean?
they are is kids respond to their dashboard lights very quickly. Like,
Yes.
and to a point where we think we start to shame them for it. And this is, I think, where it begins. Like, why do we ignore them? Because as children, and kids are like
Yes.
upset, they start to cry. Or, some kids in the corner not understanding like the lesson and like starts to cry. That's like his dashboard going, telling him
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
upset, I'm confused, I'm scared, I don't know what's going on, I feel bad. And
And
then
they want, yeah, yeah, yeah.
so and yeah, and
They're
so
disconnected. It's terrible.
yeah, so I think kids are really good for us because we see them responding to their dashboard lights just almost automatically. Like babies are automatic. They have
Yes.
there's no
No.
filter at all. They're just, they start crying or whatever and they get attention. And then as kids, especially when you get into the school system, I think there's like, we're trying to do something as a group. So, you got to push that down. You got to, wait to go to the bathroom. You have to not cry, not scream, not be upset. You have to be all the things we get told. And so we get really good with trying to drive these little vehicles to places where we think we can park and like unload. And then after a while, I think we park the car and then we go in the house and we're still packed up, right? Like we don't get to unload anywhere. And
Yes. Yes. Like
yeah,
why can't we like
like where do you take
ask for
it?
help? Yes.
Yeah, like really, where's the place you take all of this if it can't be in school and you're not supposed to do it in your house? And like, there's very few places left where it's well. I mean, I just got out of a huge grief ritual, so I'm just gonna reference
Yeah,
like what
yeah,
I just did
yeah.
this weekend was, cry and scream with a bunch of people for 3 days, and it was amazing because I could just see the reset people were getting. Like by yeah, it was like that's the mechanics. Like we need to get this stuff cleaned out. Like it's all of this energy that's being stored up that will derail your body if we don't like our job is to get it out. Like that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get these structures we're living in maintenance. And
Yes,
one of the way
yes,
you
yes.
maintenance your structure is by processing the emotion. And if we
Because
don't
it's
process it,
stored.
it's absolutely stored. And where is it stored? In your
The
muscle tissue.
body.
Yeah, it's stored in the myofascial muscle tissue, which is like the membrane that holds all like the fine layers of muscle that holds all the bigger muscle together. It wraps all around the entire body. It's like the mycelium of our human body is this myofascial tissue. And they know that emotions get wound into this. That's why our whole body can be affected, and it like tightens, it constricts, so that's your back's going to go out because you're stressed out. I mean, logically you're like, what? I mean, yes, you were waiting, you were putting stress,
But
like
it wasn't
physical
about the weeding because
stress.
it
Yeah,
went out 2 weeks after the
right.
that.
Yeah, it's
So
it's it's the tightening. It's like
yes,
the stress is like the holding. Like I don't have
yes.
time to deal with this stress, so I'm just going to push it down and try to make my Hyundai or my Fit go 140. And my
Exactly.
brain thinks I'm a Maserati, but the body is like, no, we're not. And if you want to be a Maserati, you sure as hell better be paying better attention and maintenance to this
Yes.
machine. Like you could be a Maserati, but you better be going to the gym, working out, and doing your emotional work, and all. If you're loving yourself, you can get to 140, but like to expect you can
Not
skip all that and then just run it up. And that's why I say a lot, like I don't believe in self-sabotage as a term. I think what you're looking when that happens, when things don't work out, or you're like, oh, I'm going back in, it's your body slowing you down, whether it's going to be your back going out or it's going to be you doing something like that emotionally that puts you back into like, check, basically like
yes.
checkmate. You
Yes.
don't get to move forward until the machine has, been maintenance. And I think what's missing is we don't really know our mechanics. We don't have an owner's manual. I agree with you there. We actually are not checking in with, we don't even know, we're not
We
even
don't even know.
pausing long enough to examine like what's going on to even reference. And there is no owner's manual, right? Unless we write it, because we're all different. That's the other thing, is that
Yes.
each one of us holds and responds to things
Well, and
differently.
I was thinking, oh, you keep going, you're on a
No,
roll.
I'm but yeah, go ahead. Just jump in.
Or
absolutely.
just say it like with the owner's manual thing. The thing I was thinking about is like we have an owner's manual, but it's like it's written in a language that's not very useful to us
Mm,
if we didn't have really astoundingly good community care
mm,
as we were growing up. So
yeah.
like, and this is probably too much information, but like, well, no, I'm just gonna say, just like kittens that don't have would get taken away from their mother too early, or their mother gets hit by a car or whatever. They're not very good at grooming,
Mm,
like it's like what was the modeling? What was the like pre-installed self-care
mm,
kind of stuff
right.
that's just you're not even thinking about it. It's like,
Yeah.
do you have to remind
We
yourself to
pee.
what is
Yeah.
it called?
We pee. Like I think that's one of
Right.
my favorite analogies is like I I often use this as my coaching clients. It's like you drink water during your day or tea or coffee or whatever, and you have to go to the bathroom. Like your body needs to expel that liquid, and we don't judge ourselves for it. We know that there's only so much we can hold before we have to pee, right? So when we have to pee, it's like
Yes.
we get that. Like we pee, it comes out. And yet we take stress in all day long, and like we don't think we have to go somewhere and scream or like dance or
Right, right.
howl or get it out. Like no, we just for some reason, like if we could pee, it's the same principle absolutely applies. These energies come in and we have to do something with them. We do not get to just stuff them down and keep rolling. Like that's not how our bodies work. And I think when you look at indigenous peoples, they had these mechanisms of dance and drum and movement
Yes.
built in. And also just like you said, farming, like physical work is a part of that. Like, you go out, you move. And so I think part of it is our culture so in the head, so much of stress is going on in the brain, and the brain gets like more. We can do more. We have to do more. There's more
Yes.
demands of us
It's
to
a
take on more. And then the body is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like you're not giving me any like time, space. We're not to mention nutrition and like rest and like
right.
the shoes we wear. I mean, you guys go on and on. Like, like what it's like never ever having your feet touch the earth. Like there's so many things that help the body ground process. And
So
I'm not talking like it's funny because you said owner's manual, and I think the owner's manual that we get often is like this is your nutritional pyramid, and you know blah 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 blah. And I think it's so not. I mean, for me that never really made an impact because it never felt personal to me. It was just like this generalized. I don't know. Like you have a car manual. It's like this is a car and it needs gas. You know what I mean? Like, but
versus
it's
this
not
is
talking
how,
about
right.
there's nothing.
Specific.
Yeah, specific. Like, what do you do if your dad's abusive? Like, that's not in there. Like, nobody knows what to do with that information, right? So it's not going to matter how many legumes you eat if that's what's going on. We don't know how to process that. The body doesn't know where to put that if we don't have community village, like you said,
Yes, yes.
ancestors, teachers, elders teaching us like this is how you move this. And I think it's a huge like 95% of our problems probably reside in that lack of owner's manual. I agree.
But I do think that that is the work, is to kind of write yourself an owner's manual.
Mhm.
And actually, I always say when you get something, read the manual before
Yeah,
you operate this
which
machine.
I
And it's
never do.
like, I never do, but it's like, which is interesting. So, but like,
Yep.
so it's like, yeah, like, what do we know about yourself? I love your post-it note idea. I love, like,
Yeah.
I've learned that, like, years ago, my friend Miranda said I was like, I don't know, I was upset, but feeling bad that I was upset. And she's like, wait, 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 wait. It makes sense that you feel that way.
Mhm.
And it was like, wait, what? And she's like, it makes sense that you feel that way. Of course you feel that way. How would you feel other than how you feel? You feel how you feel. It makes sense that
Yeah.
you feel that way. And so I totally made myself a little sign. And it's like that has been, that one line has been so hugely helpful. And I feel
Yeah.
like capturing it and making it be in your space enough
Hmm.
that you can integrate it, right?
Yeah.
Isn't We need each other to integrate it.
Yep.
Like I can read that little sign, but I hear her. So even though she's
Mm-hmm.
not with me, I have her support when
Yeah.
I reference that saying, because it's tethered to this supportive and awesome, smart friend. So
Yeah.
like that's how we can help each other. We can't, I don't think we can write the owner's manual by ourselves because we're too close to ourselves, of
Yeah.
course.
Hmm.
So we
Like you're making
need
those noises and Joe heard them and you didn't.
right.
Yeah.
And so like how can we because when you write a post-it note, it's because you've been sparked probably. Sometimes we're brilliant on our own.
Yeah, I think it's my journal. A lot of that comes from when I'm journaling. I'll come across, as I'm processing it on paper, which is one of the ways I check in with my dashboards, system is like I write until I like. So one of the things that Tara Brash, I don't know if you're familiar with her, she's a Buddhist teacher.
Oh,
Um,
oh, oh yeah.
you know what I'm talking about?
I think so, yeah.
I wish I had her book in front of me right now, but it's I was just reading it the other day, and she has this thing she calls RAIN. It's RAIN. And I'm trying to like, my brain's like, what do those stand for again? But it's really good. But one of the first ones is recognize. Like, recognize that you're stressed out. Like, that would be your first, like, okay, whoa, I'm making this noise with my, like, okay, I'm stressed out. And then just what your friend said to you, acknowledge it. Like, okay, and I acknowledge that this is where I'm at, whether I think it's good, bad, sideways, the other. I'm like really exhausted or stressed out right now. I've got way too much in front of me, or I'm really angry, or I'm really sad, or whatever. It's just like acknowledge it, because that is a part of a huge piece of, like, already, like, you've separated yourself from being in the middle of it, and now you're sitting with it, right? And then I believe the I is like it's getting curious, like, why? And so it's either information,
Inquiry or something.
inquiry. I think it is inquiry. Yeah. So you like inquire. That's right. I think it is inquiry. Um, yeah, like, what's up? Just like what we just did. Like, we walked backwards and be like, so what? Yeah, why am I so this way right now? And then the N is nurture, which is so great for our podcast, but it's to offer that place just a lot of compassion and nurturing. And if you can do those four things, recognize, first of all, just recognize that it's happening, acknowledge that this is me right now and not judge it, right? Yeah, inquiry into, like, why do I think this is what's up? Like, get curious and then nurture it. Like, offer that space, compassion. Like, that I believe is how we do our own, like, mechanic work. That piece is huge, because what comes from that is so much self-awareness, which is the owner's manual. Oh, this is coming up for me. This is how I'm reacting. This is where I'm holding it in my body. Like, part of that inquiry is like, where is this? And you might have,
Mm,
if you checked in, maybe you even felt it in your hips and back. Like, oh, I'm clenching back there, or this is sore and I need to lay
yeah.
down, like, I need to stretch, or I need to, like, do some, you know, I need to look up and do some specific, stretches for my back today at the end of the day, or whatever. Those little pauses can give you some information, like, for, even if you can't apply it right then. Today, before I go to bed, I'm going to take care of my car. I'm going to do some maintenance on it. So tomorrow I can get somewhere. And so those four things, and the nurture cannot be skipped. Like, that's the whole self-compassion thing. Because I think a lot of times people tune in and they're like, oh, I did it again. Like, I always do this, like, why am
Yes,
I?
yes, yes,
No,
yes.
because I kind of heard you doing that a little bit.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
yeah.
always doing this. But no, it's just like, oh, honey, it's like, have so much love and compassion for it, because that allows the body to soften and start to move
Yes.
it. Like, it's welcome.
Yes.
Like, this too is welcome. This too is, like, here, now, real, honest, authentic me, and it's welcome. And so I love this part of me, even though, I might be like, okay,
I wish I was a Maserati
I
right
wish I
now.
was a Maserati. I wish, but right now I'm like a Honda Fit running on, three wheels or something. And that's me. And I will and I will try to embrace and act accordingly. Like, so.
Well, and I think that what you started, somewhere this came up in the conversation, and I just want to reiterate it, is looking at your emotions simply as the dashboard lights,
Mm-hmm.
not as good or bad, not
Yeah.
as right or wrong. It's just information.
Yeah.
And it's just information.
Yeah.
And so, and I think you're right, like that there are societal pressures and there are family pressures that kind of like install this like storyline that it's inconvenient to have those emotions. It's
Yep.
inconvenient to have like, so the squishing down of, or
Hmm.
the discounting, the like the pushing, like the just the
Or
all the
like
ways.
I had a car once where like the lights were always like it was just such a beat up old car that the lights were all good. So I put black electrical tape over. I
Because you're
did because
like,
I didn't want to see the warning lights going off anymore. And so
because you're
I
like, of
think,
course it's getting ready to die. It's
yeah, I'm like, I
always
get it, and
dying.
I'm just gonna put tape over that so I don't have to see this,
Oh my God.
whatever check
Oh my
engine
God.
light.
But don't we do that?
We do
We
that.
do
Like that we
that.
literally put black electrical tape on things in our dashboard lights so we don't have to look at them. And I think we do that in all kinds of ways, like dissociated eating, scrolling. I mean, think of all the ways we like don't
Yes.
look, right? But we're still, still driving. And we're like, it's okay if I don't look at the light, I won't think about it, and therefore the car will still. I mean, it's magical thinking in the worst possible way. Like it's not going to keep. And then but don't be, like, so we're like, oh my god, I'm hurt. Like we can't be so surprised when the car does blow up. It's like we kind of knew we were riding on it, on a dream.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And I also just want to say too, like I think a part of this is assimilation to the culture. Like we really are trying to keep up. Like we want like literally the car. We're just trying to get the car to the thing, to make the money, to get it's
Well,
if we
and
if
it's,
we
I
were
mean,
not in this system, I think we would all have more time
yes.
to be tuning in, because one of the biggest things about all of what we're saying is you slow down. Like
Yes.
slow down and
Yes.
you start to
Simplify.
notice. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Build
and
in these check-ins.
I
Mhm.
mean, I do feel like back to the speedometer, the actual speedometer in my 2007 Honda Fit is like, it is impractical. That speedometer is impractical for that
Yeah.
car, which most people are purchasing so that they can commute, yada yada.
But don't you think the cultural expectation that we all live in is completely impractical for
Yes,
who we are as
exactly.
humans?
Exactly.
Like who the
Exactly.
hell who the hell can do all the things that we're supposed to do? Like, oh, you're supposed to have your house perfectly clean, you're supposed to be making this much money and have, pay off all your debt, and you're supposed to be looking perfect, and you're supposed to have a happy relationship, and you're supposed to have lots of friends, and you're supposed to take vacations, you're supposed to, I mean, my
It's
god.
it's it's 180
And then there's
miles an
like, yeah,
hour.
and then we don't have healthcare, and we don't, I mean, our whole social systems do not support any of that loveliness that
Correct.
they're expected. And we're supposed to be happy, of course, and not depressed about the world, on fire, and all the things. And so yeah, I mean, the speedometer of the culture is at 2 million miles an hour, and all of us
Yes,
are
exactly.
humans, barely evolved from apes, puttering along here trying to be like, whoa. I mean, what's the speed of AI? It's like the speed of the culture is so fast. um I just think that we're like, yeah, I mean, no wonder all of us are overheating and blowing up trying to even consider that.
Have you there? I think there was a little film, but it was definitely an essay, like in Sun magazine or something, when about using a sigh, a hand sigh, like not a
Mm,
hand sigh, but like the big, like Grim
yep.
Reaper sigh for
Hmm.
cutting a field, um, versus a weed whacker. And just like the juxtaposition of the kind of the ease and beauty of using a sigh, and
Hmm.
it's actually not that much slower,
If you're in really
but
good shape.
if you're in good shape. But so like if you had an area that you needed to cut several
Right.
times in the summer and you would be in shape, right?
Hmm.
But you would stop when you were tired.
Right. Yeah, so there'd
But
probably
if
be more
you
than one
have
of you
a
too.
but if you have a weed whacker, it it can keep going until it's out of gas. And if it's an electric
Hmm.
one,
Hmm.
as long as it's still plugged in,
Hmm.
it's ready to rock. Or if you need to replace the string or whatever. But like replacing the string intervals are greater than the human body intervals for
Oh,
rest
of course.
by like
Of
a
course.
thousand times, right? So
Yeah.
like I feel like it's that's a great analogy. Like that I don't know. I should see if I can find that article, but like it was really
Yeah.
beautifully written about just
Yeah.
like, wait a minute. you know?
Fossil fuels have I mean, going back to the car again, of course, but like, yeah, I mean, we really should be on horses, right? Because fossil
Mhm.
fuels are, enabling us to do things at crazy speeds, with
We
crazy
are both from the
disruption.
car state
Yeah,
originally,
we
so of
are.
course
We're
we
yes.
have
I
it
was born in
deeply
Detroit. I
ingrained
can talk about this.
in the Motor
Um,
City.
and yeah, like I just think it's a really apt analogy because we are such a car focused culture. Like we understand that, that there are limitations and things that the car we drive, but we somehow do not understand that our bodies are similarly wired in the sense that, yeah, just going back to like they're telling us all the time what they need and what they want. And I think that the culture has stripped us of the owners, like of the, yeah, I guess of the village. That's what I think you're right.
Yeah,
Cause I think when I
yes,
think of hand scything, that's not one person. That's like, a group of people bringing
yes,
in the wheat or the whatever, they're mowing the
yes.
hay. I laugh because somebody gave my ex-husband Brigham a really beautifully like handmade scythe, and it's a real deal. It was like made to do actual things, and he wanted one. He was all geeked out on it, and he like went out. I think he did it like 3 times, and he was so sore, like it almost broke his body because he
Oh,
had no idea the core muscles that you use for that motion, even if the scythe is like sharp and beautifully balanced and everything. I mean, he was like, I can't do this. Like he went back to his weed whacker. I think it's also like because we've leaned into like machines doing things for us, we've
yes.
also attuned our
Well,
bodies to not do those things. And so we get hurt more easily when we try to go out and do things like harvesting and weeding, because those are motions that we would have done as ancestrally we would have done and been very strong in, squatting, crouching. When I farmed for 10 years, and so I would get volunteers on my farm, and they would be strong, young, 20 somethings, college athletes, and they would be crying in pain after one farm day of doing the motions that we were doing because they were so low to the ground and repetitive and crouchy. And I,
yes,
over years, had developed this like crazy set of muscles that I've lost them now, unfortunately. But like when you do it a lot, you really do develop
yes,
this set of muscles that everybody would have had. Like we all
right.
would have had it because and we could all. So there's also that. Like we have become weaker, and
And
our
and
own
also
bodies and our immune systems and everything have shifted with the culture itself too. So.
one of the people that um actually I've known about her in town for years, but I've always been like, oh, she sounds like anyway, she does like kind of like therapeutic yoga stuff.
Mhm.
Sally Anderson in Astoria. So I've been to her twice and to help me with this back thing. And the thing that's really interesting is she knows all of the muscles, right? Like it's which I
Mhm.
mean, of course, people that do that and but she's like, I'm just going to tell you, like she's using the names of the muscles and she's like, okay, there's this muscle and here's where it attaches and here's and like she
Mhm.
has a background not just in yoga, right? Like but um like that the thing that's interesting is she's like so often it's not about strengthening muscles. What's really called for is relaxing
Yeah.
muscles. And
Mhm.
she's like, and then certain muscles are all cinched up and other muscles are overcompensating because you're not
Mhm.
utilizing the muscles that are actually designed for that movement. And just
Yes.
she's like, even like just the way we stand, she's like, when
Mhm.
you and I was like, oh, like those beautiful statues of women in Africa and they've got that curve of their back. And she's like, the reason that people and cultures that carry heavy things on their heads are able
Mhm.
to do that is because they are in the mechanics of their body.
Mhm.
They're not shrinking that sway of the back, which acts,
Mhm.
and so she just like
Right,
went
right.
through like my whole body of like this, and like how anyway,
Mhm.
there's people that know their bodies better than I do, like, but
That's such a
it's like
beautiful analogy,
it's
though. If you put a heavy basket on your head, your body is going to have to shift posture, right, to
and
handle that.
yes.
So the idea of the basket, let's just say, bringing 1,000 thoughts and tasks and things we have to do, we put this basket on our
Oh,
head,
ah, ah, ah,
and then
ah.
our backs get fucked up because we're not changing. You know what I mean? We don't know how to ground it. We don't know how to change our posture to adjust. So that's a really beautiful analogy, actually.
Oh my
And I would
God.
also say in Africa too, like their whole thing is movement and dance, and so they move their bodies a lot more, like they're shaking it out, like loosening everything back up again.
That was, did you know, you probably knew this, but like when you go through like all the motions that your joints, so like if just like that, it actually creates and it causes your body, there's a, oh gosh, I can look it up, but there's a fluid that is around all your connective tissue. And if
Mm.
you don't move, then it kind of gets like anyway, it makes your body make more of that. It's kind of like the oil for
It's
your
oil. Yeah.
connective tissues, and your body makes it when you use the muscle, when you use the
Mm-hmm.
connect, the joint. And so she's like, every day, if you can go through all of your range of motion, and like, of course, right now I'm all like tensed up, so like my range of
Mm-hmm.
motion is less than normal, but like
Right.
I'm trying to re-inhabit my full range of motion.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I just thought that was such a gorgeous thing. It's just a reminder of our bodies are
Our
beautifully
bodies are so wise.
so
And so
amazing.
this is where I don't want to do this service to the body by comparing it to a car, because our bodies are not cars. They are actually incredibly intelligent, like systems, like well beyond anything our brains can understand or know how to drive. That's the other thing, is our bodies are
So
really
cool.
so cool, and they are from this planet, so they know how to breathe oxygen and separate the chemicals and use them for different things. They know how to drink water and fluid waste systems. And I mean, it's so complicated, and you only know it's so complicated when you have something goes wrong, and then there's somebody trying to fix it, and you realize like, oh shit, this is so complicated, and it takes so long to fix, because this whole system is designed to interconnectedness. And our emotions and our thoughts absolutely are woven into all of it. Like there's no separate. It's not just like you have a thought over here and an emotion over here, and then there's the physical digestion. Like no. Like it's all, the body treats all of that as the same, fuel. It's working together. So yeah, I mean, just to yeah, just that make that note is like the body, if we get out of the way, can replenish, reheal, and knows what to do. And I think that's just fascinating. And I think we need to trust our bodies more. I think there's a piece. And I also think that weirdly, like you get injured, right? The back goes out, and my back has gone out plenty. So I send you a lot of love and compassion, because I have many times. And for me, that is the moment when you are forced to lay down and really feel your back, like you've never really been respecting the back until this moment. And then when the range of motion starts coming back slightly, like you're so appreciative of
Oh
every little bit
yeah.
you get
I
back. You're like,
can,
oh my God, I can do this now, and I can do this now, and I can bend over and brush my teeth without
yeah,
like
I can put my
grabbing
socks
something,
on.
because my back will go out. And so your body actually stops you and makes you reappreciate and tune back into it. And so for that blessed little period, you're like, oh my, I'm so grateful back. Thank you. Thank you. And then as soon as, of course, it comes back online completely, you're like, what? And you don't even think about it again, and off you go. But it is such a natural experience to go into appreciation and close attention, that there's no mistake that that is what your body is trying to force your brain to do. Pay attention, and now appreciate what I do.
Hmm. Yes,
So it's
yes.
actually a perfect, like, injury is the perfect educational
Teacher.
system for the operating manual. Your body is it's showing you the operating
But
manual.
so what I would like is to have this be a really good lesson so
Mm-hmm.
that I can be paying attention during the lip blubbering
Mm-hmm.
before the back goes out 2 weeks later. Like that's
Yeah.
like I want to be more attuned to
Yep.
the messages from the body because yeah,
Well, don't
yeah.
you know, like, I mean, if you're female or femme, and you have a period, if you're a body that has a period, I think over time you do teach yourself, like, at least because that thing is so rhythmic, and there's definitely emotions attached. So if you're having, like, it's one of those moments where we tune into our bodies and we're like, oh, I'm about to rip this person's head off, And then you're like,
Oh
wait, where am
yeah.
I in my cycle? And if I'm
Oh,
5 days before my bleeding time, it's like, okay, I won't kill you now. I'm gonna wait and come back to this after I'm done bleeding and see if I'm actually this pissed off at you. So so like we can learn, like there are check-in moments and how we know how our
yes.
bodies operate. We know, when we're even when like our emotions are, our progesterone's down. We start to understand your hormone cycles and like when you should write that letter. Maybe you should hold off
Wait, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and just wait for another week to see how you feel, or if you should go on that date or whatever, like we just wait. And I think same thing, like you could check in, should I take this big project on? Knowing where you are. Not only that, but with seasons. Where are you in the season of your life? Where are you in the season of the year? You know? I mean, it can
It's
get really
like,
cool. You can be
yeah.
like, what phase of the moon? I mean, you could get really into it if you want to create an owner's manual. If you start really paying attention, I know, like I'm better in the morning. My brain is much more alive after 3 o'clock. It's like, I can do a podcast. Don't ask me to work on my taxes.
Oh.
It's not gonna happen. I'll just try to do the same thing over and over again like an idiot. But if I'm doing it at 9 in the morning, I'm fine. So there, we do know things about ourselves, right? We have some
I think that
baseline.
the thing is that reminding ourselves that who who sets like who sets the rules, right? Like sometimes I think we're operating with this set of like guidelines that are like for the wrong. It's like the 140 mile an hour. I'm just going to go back to
Yeah,
that to sum it all
absolutely.
up. It's like, are we gauging our what we need to do based on what we can do, or are we basing it on something that's completely out of touch with reality, or
Yeah.
even a little out of touch with reality?
Or just based on assimilation, because we've been told our whole lives that this is, we want to get to this place because everybody else is, that's where we're all trying
And
to go.
so okay, last but not least, so the art show is I've invited other artists to be part of it, and so we had a Zoom call, and everybody, most people came, and it was really interesting because I could tell it was kind of like a little bit shoulders up because everyone was, we've been talking about it all year. Everyone, I think, we all had ideas, and then, the world is what it is, and this year is pretty intense on many levels.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was great because I was like, dudes, if this show is about nurturing interdependence, which it is, that's the theme of
Mm-hmm.
the show, then if we are making our work by like slave driving ourselves as individuals, we're not, it's going to be felt. Like there's like this, we want it to feel like we're creating this new, that we're creating a space that is going to be nurturing and healing for people to come into. So we need to do the work in a way that is nurturing and healing to us as we do the work. And so that was my little pep talk to everybody and myself. I'm like, I need
I
to hear
agree.
this right now. And so, but it was great because at the end of the call, we did a round and people kind of talked about where they were at and what they were, what was next. And by the end of the call, we all felt so much better because as individuals, we were all holding all this judgment towards ourselves about the work that we were doing, that it wasn't enough, that it wasn't what I thought it was. It changed and it's not okay to change, and yada, 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 yada,
Yep.
like the little gremlins of
Mm-hmm.
dissatisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of it, it's like, oh yeah, like, and we
Mm-hmm.
all felt so much better after just
Yeah.
airing, just
I
like
think, yeah,
go.
I want to grab something before it leaves my head. But you said something that's super important in there is that you were all afraid of change. Like there is a gremlin of the culture that is one of them. Like if you notice your dashboard light and adjust your speed, you somehow failed. Like there is, and that's going back to like industrial factory, because the culture is very much modeled after this like industrial factory mindset of like the widget needs to be made, it needs to be made like gunk gunk, gunk. And if you change your speed or don't show it, like that's a bad mark, like you're failing, you're doing it wrong. And so that consistency piece has always been there, whether we realize it or not. Like we have to just keep on going or improve. Like we have to do faster. But if you like show up at the factory one day and you're like, actually, I'm not feeling well, so I'm going to make half the widgets. That's like, that's a bad thing. When actually, that's a really wise thing,
Yes.
that you acknowledge that this is how I'm feeling. This is what I can, this is my capacity. This is what I can do. That is, and that's what's been stamped out of us. So even as artists, right? I mean, even, okay, well, I'll give you another example. At this grief workshop, Josh has been on the podcast 3 times. So he and I are running this kind of retreat together for 20 people. And he was also like, you get these places where you're in the retreat, but you're also running the retreat, and the timing and like how, and
Yes.
we had a conversation, and it was kind of that same feeling of like, he's like, we got to just push through. We got to give them 30 minutes to eat and then get them back up there so they can do some more sharing. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They're eating and sharing, right? Like, look. And he like looked over and like everyone was talking, I'm like, you don't need to stop this sharing to go pull them upstairs and put them in a sharing circle. Like, let them eat longer and share, like the way they're doing. I know it's not like the part of what you had as a plan, but just don't, this is part of it. This
Yes.
is being
Yes.
human. This is how we share over food. Like no one, and so it was just we had to keep checking in like that, because we too, as facilitators, wanted to give them the best possible full, but actually taking things out and letting them calm down and have longer time to eat and wash their dishes and like, roll, is so much more nurturing to their systems, which of course is where that's the medicine. That is the medicine,
Yes.
And I found, and same thing about this retreat, is that when I was drumming, so I want to talk about the Maserati for a minute, because I'm not saying that everything has to go super slow either,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
when I am in the right energy, so when I'm drumming and and I'm in a ritual, and there's all this energy being raised and people are wailing and doing their magic, and I just was like, I drummed for 90 minutes at a speed that I could never have held if I had just been in a room and someone told me drum at this speed for 90. I mean, I was just like, because I was holding an energetic, but I was also breathing and just
It
channeling
was
that.
part of it. It
And
was
so
like flowing.
yeah, my hands didn't hurt. You know what I mean? Like it was just, I also just want to acknowledge that we are kind of more than our body. Like our bodies are capable of doing things when our heads are get out of the way and we're just in our flow, in spirit flow. There's the Maserati. Like we have the
Yes.
capacity to go to these places with the intention and flow, when we actually tuned into the energy of a community with people. And I think that I just wanted to bring that in too. It's like, yes, it's good to slow down, but there are times when you'll see that we are more than just what we think we are. We have channel of energy that comes from bigger sources than our own, and we
Oh,
are vehicles for that energy. So yeah, like the human body is just so cool, right? We can do so many magical things, because in those moments, I feel like I'm limitless. And it doesn't hurt me. I'm not pushing.
there's
I'm
that.
flowing, and
Yes.
it's
Yes.
beautiful, and
Yes.
everybody can feel it. When you're bringing that, everybody can feel it and tap into it, and you're overflowing with energy. So that's also really beautiful and very possible. And I think that's something else that we've kind of lost understanding about. It's, we need a new owner's manual that incorporates some of that too. Like if you want to get out of your
It's
head, get your
and
ego
also
out of the way, don't push, just breathe deeply and allow yourself to be a channel. And that is
yes.
where you are able to Maserati without hurting
And
yourself.
I think there's the being the channel, but there's also the idea that you were part of a container that
Yeah.
had it was responsive community power.
Yep.
So it's so this seems like a great place to end because such a positive image, I think. This idea of just being filled with life force. It's beautiful.
Yeah. All right then.
Thank you.
It's a good
I
way to end an Aries full moon too, little podcast. So go forth and be the fire.
mm,
All right, I love you so much, Iris.
oh,
Have your
I
day.
love you
Bye.
so much. Woohoo. Thanks for processing my back.
I love it. I love your back.
I do too. Thank you, back. Thank you, body.